Alright, Lancer, so today we're going to be checking out the 3 new resurrectable characters. They've been resurrected this morning. If you have them, go ahead and do it. It gives you 75 orbs per resurrection, and you also get to pick up some pretty good links. So for the most part in this video, we're going to be taking them into some content just to see how they play, because maybe you're like a new player that's actually never seen these characters in gameplay. They're pretty cool characters, and I do want to talk about them once more and also go over their upgrades. So first up, Yamamoto himself did get a new soul trait, giving a recharge and also damage to burning enemies. This soul trait is a bit iffy as of right now. It's never really going to be better than soul traits that just give you natural damage, either strong attack damage, more damage at full stamina, etc. But there are very few cases where this soul trait can be useful for those characters in Guild Quest content where they have a very high chance to inflict stat ailments and also have so much Berserker where giving them an additional strong attack damage link wouldn't make that much of a difference. It's a very specific character that could benefit from this, and I believe right now in the technique attribute, we don't really have a character like that. In the future, if we do get a technique character that wants to inflict burn to do more damage, then this soul trait could become useful. In terms of upgrades though, the character itself did pick up more Berserker, more damage to burning enemies, and also guard break. Ultimately, the biggest problem that we saw with this character's resurrection is the fact that he was actually the first character in the game, believe it or not, to introduce innate skills. So because of that, he already had 3 innate skills built into the character. So when it came to his resurrection, he was only able to pick up 1 new skill, which in this case was guard break. This definitely can be a problem going forward into the future with new resurrectable characters. You'll see in this video the other characters that we are going to talk about, because they didn't have innate skills, they overall picked up 3 to 4 new skills, whereas Yamamoto here really only got 1 new skill, and that's ultimately the biggest problem with this character's resurrection when it comes to comparing him to other resurrectable characters. I will say though, this character is actually really cool. The idea of getting a second 1000-year Blood War Yamamoto using the different directions of his Bankai was something that we expected because of the name of the original Bankai Yamamoto. We knew we were going to be getting a second one, and I'm glad we did because this moment is actually really cool. The artwork is really cool, and it's also Yamamoto in the fire cloak. Like, this is just so cool looking, and it's what I'm really hoping for with a new 1000-year Blood War anime version of Yamamoto, because we know that is going to happen. It's one of the few characters they skipped over in Core 1 of 1000-year Blood War anime characters. We know Yamamoto is eventually going to get a remake with the anime color scheme, with the anime visuals, and I can't wait to see how they actually adapt Tenchi Kaijin, because in the anime, it looks absolutely beautiful. I'm also more curious though how they're going to handle the model itself, because one thing you'll notice with the character model when compared to the Soul Bomb, right, is it looks completely different. Now, there's obviously a reason for that. They were limited on what aura can be displayed on the character. Like, these fire visuals here are more like 2D visuals. It does look pretty cool for what it is, but I'm kind of curious to see how different that would look in a new 2024, 2025 even, version of Yamamoto, and maybe they could replicate how the Soul Bomb looks to make it overlook a lot better. Alright then, so jumping into the quest, first up, demonstrating the character's strong attacks. His SA1 is going to be a lunge forward. His SA2 is going to be another lunge forward. And his SA3, which I think is the best part of this character's visuals, is just a stomp on the floor, massive AoE around him. Really cool stuff. He's got a very straightforward kit. Had a little lag spike there. Hopefully we don't get too many in this video. Very straightforward character. Now, one thing that was weird about this character, or ultimately what this character was designed for, was for the Transcendent Trials. Now, back when this character released, there was a massive lack of Hogakus. Everyone needed Hogakus. Maxing out characters just got easier. Everyone was leveling up their characters, right? Especially for Orc, whether that was to get to level 200 or just the 6-star then. Unfortunately though, everyone started to run out of Hogakus. I think there was an event back in before this that had offered a lot of Hogakus, but it was definitely around this point, a few months before that even, where everyone was starting to run out. And Caleb's solution to this lack of Hogakus was to introduce an event where the characters themselves had a chance to dodge, right? The infamous dodge quest. And Yamamoto was the first character that was designed for that new quest, where if you had them, well, you didn't have to worry about the dodge. He was able to go through it significantly easier, and if you pulled him, you were able to farm thousands, hundreds of thousands if you really wanted to, Hogakus, which I guess was what this character was offering. Now, it's a bit awkward to be fair, because like a month later, the quest returned and Yama couldn't be used. So he was really only good for like a month. But I mean, you didn't even need him to farm the event. He just made it a lot easier, right? I mean, the character I would say still plays relatively fine. Strong attack kit, I mean, if we got a character nowadays that is strong attack kit with more updated strong attacks, honestly, it wouldn't be too bad. And I will say I'm liking him against the bosses. If we do inflict the burn, they go down relatively quick. We are kind of cheesing our way through it by inflicting burn. So let's go ahead and use our summon. It's an overall good summon. I like it. Comparing it to the anime, though, of course, the anime did it significantly better. And I don't think the summon has aged the best. So that's what I'm really hoping for with a new remake of this character. For them to really nail the new anime aesthetic and just make him look absolutely beautiful, right? Because the anime made him look great. Really hoping BBS can follow up. And Brave Souls, Caleb Moss have been doing a good job recreating the anime visuals in-game, despite just having like the chibi models, right? So I'm really hoping and looking forward to Tenchi Kaijin in the new anime art style. In this case, though, a 2 minute and 21 second play time. Not the greatest, but it's what you expect of a character of this age. I think the character itself still plays relatively well. What you're going to notice with this character, though, is just a lack of damage output, right? At least, of course, when compared to newer characters. His damage upgrade orb comes behind Inflict and Burn, and with no increased chance, it's a bit iffy when you are using him in harder content. He's still a really cool character though, so honestly not a bad character to whip out, just have a bit of fun with. Especially because, again, this version of Yamamoto has yet to officially be remade. We, of course, have the new manga version that came out in 2022 that is basically all of the directions in one unit. But if you wanted to play as Yamamoto on fire and not just it being the sword bomb, this is the only character that can actually offer that. Of course, though, since we are reminiscing on this old unit, it'd be wasted to not mention the situation about this character's release. Ultimately, the biggest problem that he had was that he was a technique no affiliation killer, released literally 2 weeks after Nini, and Nini was just the better character. And that's, of course, mentioning the fact that this character was leaked 2 weeks in advance over on KGS, the K-Lab livestream, where they were showcasing the new Burn the Witch characters. But recently, during that livestream, Caleb updated the friend system. Unless you clicked on the friends tab, you didn't actually see what friends you were bringing, and it just so happened that the friend they did bring was a new technique 1000 Year Blood with Yamamoto. So we knew actually before this character did release that we were getting a new Yamamoto. I mean, we kind of knew anyway because, again, the naming, but it was really funny, especially in my point of view, waking up the next morning and seeing everyone freaking out about a new Yamamoto. Like I said, though, unfortunately didn't actually live that long in terms of usability. He was always a inferior version to Nini, and his sole use realistically was just being used to farm Hokukus. Overall, though, I would say he probably got the worst resurrection of the bunch, and that ultimately comes from the fact that he already had 3 innate skills, so he didn't and wasn't able to really pick up that many new skills. Next up, we have Chojiro, an honestly really cool and unique Brave Souls character, because of course this is Chojiro using his Bankai. But of course in the manga, in the anime, we never see this version of Chojiro as an actual adult use his Bankai. He only uses it in the flashback when he uses it against Yamamoto. So this is one of those unique original characters in Brave Souls, despite him being a 1000 Year Blood unit. And I gotta say, his artwork is actually still really cool, and I'm kind of glad this character does exist, because this version of Chojiro has never had a good unit. And to be fair, even this one wasn't like the greatest, more so due to his killer being Captain. Nowadays, if you get Captain Killer, it's not bad, because you can be useful in guild quests. Back when this character released though, it wasn't all that. In terms of what this character did get upon resurrecting though, first up he was a 12% recharge, now being that with the additional 20% strong attack damage when you are at full stamina. Really good soul trait, it's now the 3rd existing soul trait of its kind in the heart attribute. This is great for himself, but also of course any other heart character in your box. To go with that, he got Guard Break, which now seems to be the norm for every new resurrection, at least 1000 Year Blood once. And also picked up 30% more strong attack damage, again, when at full stamina. So 50% sad overall when at full stamina is actually really good. I believe he got an extra Berserker increase, more damage to paralyzed enemies, and also an increased chance to inflict status elements against any mind attribute Soribun. Would have loved if this was to any mind character, because then he can get the most out of his paralysis. So pre-resurrection and post-resurrection, the thing you're going to notice here is quite a noticeable damage increase. He's definitely going to play a lot better. And I guess if you are a Chojiro fan, shout out to you 1%. The character itself technically got a tad bit more enjoyable. Alright then, so jumping into the quest, first up in terms of the character's strong attacks that he does have, his SA1 is going to be a beam forward, his SA2 is an AoE around him, and his SA3 is going to be a force screen. And I'll be honest, granted this room is actually quite nice for any character, that felt quite nice. Quite smooth to play with thus far. It's actually a really good strong attack hit. That SA2 feels great as well. And damage numbers here, it's not looking too bad in all honesty. If only we had an increased chance against everyone, that would have been great, but Honestly, this feels way better than Yamamoto, which is kind of weird to think about, right? But it makes sense. He overall got a more damage increase. Because the difference between him and Yama is that Yama is all about inflicting stat ailments to get his, DPS. Chojiro kind of just doesn't care about that. He's doing it to anyone. And right now, I kind of prefer this character's strong attack here. Now, I guess the unique thing is that the coloring of his lightning effect, of course, is purple because this is his Shika, right? You only get the Bankai in the Sword Bomb, which is the golden lightning. Which I guess we can use now.
Bankai.
It's a pretty cool Sword Bomb, and of course it does have the unique effect of having this like vortex around him after you actually do use the Sword Bomb. It was something that 1000 Year Blood War Rukia introduced, and only a few characters ever got it. I kind of see why they kind of got rid of it, because it was kind of pointless to a certain extent. But I kind of could see the appeal in this strong attack, or this after effect on a Sword Bomb being used in current guild quests right now, where you can't nuke through multiple waves. Because I guess the general idea was that most of the time when you do Sword Bomb, especially back in the early days when we were only doing Inheritance Zone and stuff, once you Sword Bomb, your Sword Bomb is likely to kill the entire room, where you don't really get to benefit from that vortex because everyone's basically dead. But now in guild quest content, very hard and Nightmare, you can't nuke through multiple ways. So having that vortex would actually be really great for crowd control. And some characters nowadays, Rukia for example, right? They don't have any special effects on their Sword Bomb besides the fact that it does inflict stat ailments. Some characters can't even do that. It would maybe be a great way for someone like Owetsu, for example, to have crowd control on their Sword Bomb, despite them not having any status procs. It's one of those mechanics that I was kind of like whatever about it going away, because it was never like ever good. But I can definitely see its usability be good in 2024 with our current, meta in Guild Quest, for example. In this case, though, honestly, that was quite good. 1 minute and 23 seconds on Chojiro. He's only 1-5. That honestly felt very good. He's a character that's aged quite well in terms of playability, in terms of how he plays. Of course, he's never going to be as good as a new character, but that generally wasn't too bad. I want to do another run with him. With that said, I feel like it's also a little fun fact for those that aren't actually aware, is that Chojiro's the only character in the game to have more 1000 Year Blood War variations than canon characters, which is kind of funny, but I guess it does make sense, because Chojiro as a character, of course, only really ever gets any significance when he dies in 1000 Year Blood War, right? Of course, there are characters out there that are only 1000 Year Blood War units, so they don't have any premium variation, but in terms of characters that could have premium options, Chojiro's only ever premium character was a filler form, with his tag team, Zanpakuto. So technically, Chojiro doesn't even have a normal premium character that isn't, a filler unit, which is kind of crazy, but again, kind of understandable. Let's go up here, use SA1. One thing I will say though, I was going to say I would love for this character in particular to get remade. I don't think we honestly need it, especially after getting the already existing new anime version of Chojiro, his younger form. But I do like the idea of Chojiro's Bankai. And honestly, the closest thing we're going to get to a Chojiro remake is Driscoll. Is honestly Driscoll. And I'm actually really hoping for Driscoll to be a good unit. Not because I like Driscoll or anything, but Driscoll does use the Bankai, right? Like, I always wanted to see his Bankai be turned into a tracking vortex. I think that'd be a really good use of it. Visually, that would look great too. And Driscoll having Rampage with a tracking vortex might be kind of powerful, It might be. In terms of his Sword Bomb, though, from an animation standpoint, it starts off a bit weird because he's kind of just standing still. But it does have that very unique effect where it starts off with black bars, black and white, and then transitions into a full screen with colors. And I think this is Caleb's way of showing, like, this Sword Bomb, him using a Bankai, is kind of like a flashback. Because, again, you never actually see him using in the series. But in this case, in terms of play time, 1 minute and 26 seconds. Again, that's actually not too bad. Chojiro's relatively surprised me today, I will be honest. So yeah, overall, this character's resurrection is a pretty decent one. He got a really good soul trait, which for most people is the most important part. And damage increase, it is quite noteworthy. He's one of those cool, unique units in Brave Souls that you're only really ever going to see in Brave Souls. While I'm not the biggest Chojiro fan, having this character in-game existing is just kind of cool in its own way. Because you're never going to see Chojiro, as an adult, use his Bankai, given how things turned out in the anime and manga. So a really cool, in a way, what-if unit, despite being 1000G blood form. And I'd say his resurrection was actually pretty good. Overall good treatment, still plays relatively fun, even in 2024. And then lastly, we got Izuru, a character that I only recently poured, I believe, this year. Izuru is also one of those characters that I'm looking forward to seeing how the anime handles him. I'm excited for a potential remake of this particular Izuru. And of course, the artwork is actually really cool, iconic scene from the manga. But Izuru as a character is someone that probably got one of the better upgrades. Again, to my knowledge, I might be wrong, I'm pretty sure I'm not though. He's the first normal attack damage character to be given guard break. And that is amazing for a resurrection, because that was one of the things he did lack. Since he did release post Tokinada, any normal attack damage unit like this character was pretty much either dead on arrival or really hype, just based on this one skill alone, of course that being guard break. So to see him pick up guard break and also long reach upon resurrecting, it's actually really good. He of course also did get more normal attack damage, more damage to when you are under half stamina, and that's basically about it. But honestly, that's all this character really did need. I feel like he got every skill he wanted to, and given the current stagnation of normal attack damage characters outside of Guild Quest content, under half stamina, he honestly does maybe play like a 2024 unit. Of course, though, his soul trait might be one of the best parts about him, being damage taken minus 20%, an enhanced soul trait with 16% more normal attack damage, making him a really good soul trait for any Mind Brave Battle unit, of course, more specifically, 1000G Blood War Sergeant. In terms of this character's visuals, before we even showcase the character, maybe it's just me, shouldn't he be a bit more pale? I guess it's just the shadow of the soul bomb, but I really feel like his in-game model should be a lot more pale looking, because this kind of just looks like a normal Izuru besides the massive hole he does have in his chest. So once more, looking forward to how the anime is going to adapt it. And if he's more pale looking in the anime, you know, when he eventually gets a remake, he's going to look the exact same with the correct color scheme. All right then, so jumping into the quest, and you know what, this map is maybe kind of appropriate for this character. So look at the character's strong attack. His SA1, I believe, is a pushback attack. His SA2 is going to be like a little vacuum vortex. And then his SA3 is going to be a full screen. What you're going to notice with this character visuals, it's like very generic looking attacks. Let's actually get to low stamina real quick. Or half stamina. No, low stamina actually. Because I got some low stam links on. Again, ultimately that's the problem with low stamina, is that I have to waste time here. But on the topic of the anime, that's one thing I'm kind of looking forward to. Hopefully the anime does give him a unique attack or something for him to do, because his visuals are very generic, since he basically does nothing in the manga besides show up. And anything that he does do is off screen. And that unfortunately does reflect in the character visuals, where he's kind of just flicking purple slashes at people. And I believe the soul bomb, when we do actually use it, is him just using Tenran, right? A very generic Kido attack. And we do get an increase, or we do get a status proc there. Weakening is actually really good. In a way, this character now just kind of plays well. It kind of feels like the skills that he has now is what he should have had on release, right? Like, the guard break is great. It's nice that we don't have to use our strong attacks. The low stamina makes sense because he's kind of half dead. Goes well with his last ditch. The weakening makes sense too, because it means like if we are in a situation like this, granted we are now officially one-shot, but weakening can potentially save you from dying. But again, if you die, you have last ditch. And that will still allow us to keep our low stamina damage boost. And the long reach just means that we can kind of sit back from afar here. We end up dying, but that's fine. The DR also kind of helps us to take a bit more damage, but we can just sit back. Ultimately, the reason why we aren't like one-shotting here, which we would normally do, is because the enemies have Iron Skin. Since we don't have that increased chance, and since our normal attacks only hit once, does mean that we are going to have to use a few extra normal attacks here to take him down. Let's make sure we don't get too cocky though, because we actually can get one shot here. We only have 100% last ditch. But this isn't too bad. Again, I mean, as far as 2024 Knight characters go, this kind of just plays like any other Knight character. Maybe besides a few extra... Let's actually grab these. Does this get us above? Not what we entirely wanted, but that's fine. Does this poison? It does actually, that's not bad. I guess one thing that's kind of cool about his Knight string is you kind of see the slash. It's kind of like he's opening a portal. Not really, but you can kind of see what I'm coming at. I guess the initial impact that he has on his Knight string isn't too bad. But let's go ahead and use the soul bomb just to quickly demonstrate what I mean. To be fair, it's actually kind of a cool summon. Of course, it does replicate the one thing he does, the panel. I love that about the Soul Bomb. And, you know, even though he is using a somewhat generic attack, just using, you know, Tenran, right? It doesn't look too bad. I feel like Killer did a pretty good job considering what they had to work with. And I think this is the last enemy to kill. Never mind, they kill us. Let's just revive and get this quest over with. And there we go. An overall cool character, but this is why you can't really use normal attack damage characters in 2024. Way too slow. Way too slow. Overall, got what he wanted. When it came to his resurrection, he definitely plays better because, you know, before, we would have to use strong attacks to break the enemy's guard, and that would have been kind of annoying. If you do enjoy normal attack damage character, you can definitely get a lot of enjoyment out of this character, especially if you are an Izuru fan. This, again, is kind of what the character should have had on release. So it's kind of like a perfect closed book situation here. In a way, what other character would love to get upon resurrecting, this skills they exactly want. Unfortunately, you can't say the same for a lot of characters. For example, Faushinji Byakuya released without Frenzy, and then upon resurrecting, didn't get Frenzy. And for those that always wanted to play with that character with Frenzy, you unfortunately don't get to do that. Unless you, of course, count the new Faushinji Byakuya. After 4 long years, he finally got guard break, and it's nice to see it. So yeah, overall, 225 additional orbs, 2 pretty good soul traits, and I would say Chojiro is actually a pretty good resurrection. I actually enjoyed my time playing with him today. This banner as a whole definitely wasn't my favorite Faushinji banner, I will be honest. It kind of felt like a filler one, especially because it did release after Burn the Witch. My hype was more so sought after with those 2 characters. Yama was the main one carrying this banner, but he didn't really age the best because, again, Nini existed, and he was really only there just to sell a new dodge event. Chojiro, due to his killer, really didn't get much usability. I don't think I ever really used the character all too much, but he was still cool that he existed. It was a cool fan service unit. Same with Izuru. It was cool that he got a new unit, and that was really about it. So I would say this banner was quite forgettable, skippable more so, especially considering the fact that the following 2 banners, next 2 end of month banners, was everything but the rain, and then of course the fan favorite round 14 10 years later version of Ichigo and Rukia, who are set to get their resurrections in the coming months, right? This time next month, we should get Misaki and Ishin resurrection. Looking forward to that. And a month after that, round 14 Ichigo and Rukia. Excited about that too. Hopefully they get some pretty good skills, because Rukia in particular actually has aged quite well. Either way though, let me know what you think about these character resurrections, and let me know if you have any history of these units. Maybe you were playing when they first came out. Either way, hope you liked the video. See you guys next time. Take care and peace.